What's going on, everybody? Striving Emperor here, and the Gintama journey for me continues. I've been doing nothing but watching Gintama episodes over this past week. I've been slowly catching up to the series, and I gotta say, man, it's been a blast watching this series. It's been a joy. There is a hell of a lot of comedic moments in this series, a lot of parodies that they have. It's a fun time, it's a chill time, it's a relaxed time. You never know where an episode's gonna go with Gintama. The funny thing about this series is that you never exactly know which part is filler and which part is actual canon when you're watching the anime, because this series is all over the place in some of the things they're willing to go into, which makes it fun. It's a fun series, it's an entertaining series. Hell, the fillers themselves are also pretty good, other than those first two episodes. The fillers, for the most part, are relatively good, so you just never know how an episode's gonna go, and there's plenty of comedic value. However, when it comes to a shonen, I know what I'm there to see. Yes, I love the comedic moments. Yes, I love some of the character interactions and some of the funny moments they have overall. I like the parodies too. But at the same time, when it comes to a shonen series, I'm always looking for those dramatic moments. I'm always looking for those action scenes. I'm always looking for those moments where the main protagonist is gonna be tested against some sort of villain or antagonist. I'm looking for that moment, a fight that's gonna define the series. And throughout my journey of Gintama, there were plenty of great fights that I enjoyed. Plenty of great fights. However, none of them really stuck out to be that moment where I'm like, this really defines Gintama. It defines the series. You know, there were plenty of great fights throughout the series, and I'm not going to take away from them. I enjoyed them. They're not bad or anything, but it didn't really give me that moment. I'm looking for a fight like a Naruto versus Sasuke, or a Goku versus Vegeta. Not saying it has to be on that level, but a fight that kind of defines the series. I was looking for that, and although I enjoyed the fights and the action scenes and the dramatic moments, by the way, when Gintama wants to get serious as a series, they can do it. This anime, bro, if they want to get serious, when they have serious moments, they really have serious moments. And I love what they do with those scenes. Like, it really builds up the tension, and they do such a great job. So I enjoy the serious aspects of Gintama. When they have those moments, it gets great. And the more I continue to watch the anime, the more frequent those serious moments start to show up, and I'm enjoying that. So I'm guessing I definitely am approaching those moments where it's like nothing but seriousness, nothing but seriousness. Now, currently where I am, it's we're getting ready for the final battle. I've been really binging this, so it's like it's getting ready to get to that final part. I think I'm about to start watching the semi-final of the anime, because I've been doing nothing but watching this. I've been binge watching this, nothing else being watched, just nothing but Gintama. So I'm at the semi-final part, not the final yet, but the semi-final. I don't exactly know the name of these arcs, so what if I end up doing a review about Gintama as a whole, I will make sure I have a list of all the names of the arcs so I can just go through each and talk about them. But yeah, I've been really binging this. And for the most part, like I said, I've been looking for that fight that really stands out. And I hadn't found that until we got to the moment. The fight that I felt defined the series. I don't know what's waiting for me in the other episodes I'm going to binge into, the final aspect, the final saga or whatever of Gintama. I don't know what's waiting for me. But bro, when this fight pulled up, it was a thing of legend. Gintoki versus Takasugi. Gintoki versus Takasugi was a S tier level fight. This fight lived up to everything I wanted it to be. Because early on, like back in the first Gintama movie, you know, you have that scene at the end of the movie. You have pretty much throughout the entire movie where you're seeing those moments with Takasugi, and you know that he definitely has, his past is definitely connected to Katsura and Gintoki. So these three, they definitely have a connected past, and I was waiting for that moment when these two would finally clash, because I felt if they fight, it's going to be an epic fight. And boy, was I right. When this fight came up, it was everything I wanted and more. It gave me the action. It gave me an antagonist that has a connection with Gintoki and can perfectly go blow for blow, bar for bar, slash for slash. Just a guy that can match up with Gintoki. And this guy did everything I want. Everything I wanted to see from Takasugi, I got that in that fight. But what made it even better was the flashbacks we were getting in between. And I was confused for a second. I'm like, hold on. All these damn flashbacks. What is this, Naruto? Like, all these flashbacks, which, by the way, I love. But all these flashbacks happening in between the fight, I feel it adds to the moment because it gives you context as to how these two got here. The flashbacks. Okay. It was exactly what I expected in terms of these guys knowing each other, you know. All of them originally having just both Katsura and Takasugi. These two were in their own, they were in their own training, their own samurai training school. I'm not even going to be good enough explaining this, but they were in their own separate school, they had their own separate people that were teaching them. Meanwhile, Gintoki was being, you know, trained and taught by Shoyo. Eventually, you see both Takasugi and Katsura end up coming towards that side, and they give up, they sacrifice everything, and decide, you know what, I want to be taught by this man Shoyo, and they end up becoming students together. You see the rivalry that happens between Takasugi and Gintoki, the endless amount of fights they've had, constant spars. You can tell they're rivals, they're friends, and then you see as the flashbacks go on from them being children, all being, you know, rivals and going against each other, to where it gets to the more serious tone of now all of a sudden Shoyo is being taken away and everything they had is being lost, and now things are really at the bottom. You see them do everything in their power to try and fight to get them back, and you see both Gintoki and Takasugi side by side. Things are looking grim. It looks like they're about to die, but at the end of the day, they do whatever it takes to survive. So you see them when they're young as rivals, then you see them when they're older, they're on a battlefield participating in the war, and they're just war comrades doing whatever it takes to survive, guys that have known each other for such a long time. And then you get to the moment where this one surprised me, and I'm just like retelling it right now because this one surprised me. I was not expecting this. From what we got early on, we knew that Shoyo was taken away. He was taken away, and at that moment I'm watching this early on and I'm thinking, okay, so Gintoki wasn't able to save his teacher, they executed him. Alright, cool. What I ended up finding out was a whole lot more than I expected. And it really adds on to the burden that Gintoki's walking with. This is why I was like, there's more to this guy than we're originally seeing up front. So I never expected this. Awesome, we're getting through the flashback, and now you have a scene where Shoyo, he's tied up. You got all these guys there holding him down. And then you have both Katsura and Takasugi, they're also on the ground tied up, and now you just have Gintoki with a sword in his hand and he's walking up. And he's the one walking up to Shoyo, and you have this moment here where Takasugi is pleading with Gintoki to not do what he's about to do. He's pleading with him. But at the end of the day, from Takasugi's perspective, at the end of the day, what do we see? Gintoki cuts off the head of his teacher. I did not expect that. I'm gonna be very honest. I did not expect that. I knew Shoyo was killed. I didn't expect freaking Gintoki to be the one to do it. The burden this man is carrying. This is crazy. And then you see it from his perspective, from Takasugi's perspective, and then you see it from Gintoki's perspective, and you see that there's two different perspectives. Both of them obviously wanted to save their teacher, but it was a situation where that couldn't be the case. In Takasugi's perspective, he's feeling a whole lot of regret, anger, sadness, depression. He wasn't able to save his teacher, and at the same time, his rival and his longtime friend had to take on the burden of killing their master. From Gintoki's perspective, he was stuck between two choices. He either had to sacrifice everything, including Katsura and Takasugi, sacrifice them to try and save his teacher, or take out his teacher, to hold on to everything that his teacher values, everything that he finds dear, which includes Katsura and Takasugi. So he had to make that decision. And at the end of the day, just before Shoyo died, he thanked Gintoki, and Gintoki just has that emotional scene where he's breaking down, but he's smiling, and you got tears in his eyes. He cuts his head off, and then you flash back to Takasugi's perspective, and the last thing he sees on that one eye that no longer, what is it, his left eye? Is that one eye. The last thing he saw out of that eye was that image of Gintoki, and he just has tears coming out of his eyes. He's crying, and he's just, you could tell at that point he's at his lowest of lows, and he's just contemplating the burden that he has to carry, because now he's just killed his teacher. So there was so much that went into this fight. Of course, the action itself was great. Man, they really went at it. The sword fight, they really went at it. It got hella bloody. Honestly, it looked like these two were going to kill each other. I really thought, okay, there may be a chance where one of these two is going to die, because it was coming down to that. It was that severe. Everything you wanted from this series in terms of its seriousness, in terms of its action, in terms of the tension, you got that in that fight, and it was fantastic. But what made this go to S tier for me was the backstory happening in between this, and the shock to me to find out that Gintoki's the one that killed his master. He had to take that burden on in order to save everything that Shoyo truly valued, which of course was his students. In order to do that, he had to take out his teacher. And he abided by his teacher's wishes, and his master, just before he dies, thanks Gintoki. The burden that this man has to carry is something severe, and this fight shows it. So one guy is carrying the burden, and it's left him empty at some point, which again reminds me a lot of Ryo from City Hunter. You know, a guy that up front, you see him all happy and goofy and acting crazy and perverted, but you understand that this guy has lost a lot of things, and he's been through a lot of things, and there's more to him than what he shows up front. That's exactly what Gintoki is. And honestly, when you look at him early on in the series, you could see that he was a shell of himself. He was an empty shell that just had nothing left going for him because of the burden that he had to carry, and there was nothing he could do. He was a lost soul at the beginning of the series. So you see this guy carrying that burden, and then you see it from Takasugi's perspective, and Takasugi is just sitting there like, I couldn't save my teacher, couldn't protect him, and one of my rivals and longtime friends had to take on the burden of killing our master in order to save us and everything he valued, and it got to him. He truly felt that despair, because at the end of the day, even Gintoki asked, he didn't ask him, but even at the end of the day, Gintoki said it, if you were in my shoes, you would have done the same thing, and he would have. And that's something Takasugi did not want to really, he didn't want to accept that. He didn't want to accept that. In that moment where he just has that statement of realization that he's like, I still haven't been expelled yet, have I? That moment was beautiful. Unfortunately, the fight, it ended, but at the same time, the way it ended kind of blew me for a second, but I still enjoyed the fight. It's a great fight. I'm not the type of guy to break down an analysis and go truly in depth as to the emotional value of this, and that, but especially because this is an initial reaction and not an analysis or breakdown of the genius of that scene. But I love the fight, I love the action, I love the intensity, I love the drama, I love that this is an actual antagonist that has legit connections to Gintoki, the longtime rivals who have sparred hundreds of times, so they know how each other fight. They've been comrades on the battlefield together. They've gone through so much together, and now they stand here today as antagonists, man. They go at each other. They're on two opposite sides. They have the same things they hold dear and the same things they value, but they have different mindsets, different principles. And because of that, they have to fight. It's a conflict between two friends with different principles. Same with Naruto versus Sasuke. So I enjoyed this fight. This was an S tier level fight. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. I'm far past that, but I could not stop without giving that analysis of that great fight. That fight was fantastic. So, with that being said, I'm going to end the video here. I did not expect to go this long to talk about that fight, but man, it was amazing. It was great. I enjoyed it. And, as I get ready to get to that final saga, the semifinal and then the final, and, get ready to wrap up Gintama, I've really enjoyed what I've seen. It's been a lot. I definitely probably find a way to talk about the series and give a whole review at the end of the day, but So many characters that have been great. So many moments that have been fantastic. I love them. And this fight was truly S tier. More of that. Hopefully, as I'm getting to this final saga, we will see more of that. But hey, we'll see what happens. With that being said, that is all I got. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that we can build this empire. And with that being said, that's all I've got, and I'm out of here, man. Peace.